Welcome to the latest edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Ryder, live from Chicago for the NBA Draft Lottery tonight, where you have some breaking news on that front. You're going to be in the room.
I will be in the secret room. I will be hanging. Do you know yet? Is Daryl Morey? Who's the Sixers' good luck totem in this thing? Do we know?
I don't know that they have a good luck totem, and I don't know who their representative will be either, but I love that you're going to be in the room live for this disaster. It's going to be fantastic.
I'm being told maybe it's Jared McCain. So I'm gonna if that's who it is, I'm gonna find Jared. We're gonna put some good vibes into the universe, and then I'm just gonna stare at him as the news comes out to watch his face in total elation when that pick does not in fact go to the Thunder, right? Yeah.
You know what? Jared McCain is a good representative for the Sixers to have. Aside from him blowing out his ACL last year, he had a nice little start to the season. So I approve of him being there. We'll talk about the lottery a little bit later in the show, and then definitely tomorrow we'll get your reaction from that. But later in this show, we're going to discuss Oklahoma City tying the series with Denver. The Pacers ruined the Cavs yesterday, and now they're one win away from a second straight Eastern Conference Finals. The Celtics built a big lead, Bill, and believe it or not, they did not blow it, and the Wolves put the Warriors in a tough spot going into Game 4 tonight. But first, we had a little breaking news earlier today before we came on. Giannis, according to reports, is open to leaving Milwaukee, according to Shams. No firm decisions have been made, but he's open-minded about, quote, playing elsewhere. Bill, what else are you hearing about this?
Well, and I mean, let's not be shy. Like, CBS Sports was first on this. We reported this back in October that this was a expected outcome for the summer, and there was sort of a division of reporting that followed that. A lot of places confirmed it. A lot of places, including Sham's current employer, said that it wasn't true. And visiting with folks, a lot of the same sources, John, that I talked to in that initial report, but other people too at the Combine, it's speculation. People sort of accept sometimes with an eye roll that he hasn't made up his mind, but everybody here thinks he's going to be somewhere else. Doesn't mean he will be. Well, I haven't talked to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I haven't talked to his agent, but the sensation here in Chicago, whereas, every executive and scout and GM and agent and hanger-on is gathered, the talk is not will Giannis leave, it's what team is going to land him this summer.
I love that you're in Chicago for this, because for people who don't know, the Combine is like such a networking event, and everybody who's anybody as a media member, a reporter, front office executives, scouts, everybody is there, and they're just sitting in the gym talking to each other and trading scuttlebutt and whisper. So that's going to be big for you as this weekend continues, or this week continues, and we'll get some reporting from you. But this is something that you had flagged, that we have talked about on the podcast for months now, that this, if the Bucks were a first round out, that this could be a potential outcome, that Giannis might look around and go, man, this situation is not good for me. And then the minute that Dame went down and unfortunately blew out his Achilles, that really forced everybody's hand here, where everybody went, okay, that for sure Giannis is going to want out now. And now, Bill, I mean, who isn't going to be lined up for him? It's going to be a long, long line of potential suitors. And I've got some favorites that I think we'll get into, but you are expecting and anticipating that there's going to be a massive market for him.
Yeah, massive market. I think so. The big question that people have been speculating on here, and again, this is all speculating on what Giannis is going to do, so there's no answer. But the big question now is, will Giannis, and there was some reporting in the last week or so that sort of leaned in this direction, will Giannis target a couple cities and or organizations? And there had been some talk that New York, LA, Miami were preferences for him, and that sort of creates its own barrier for Milwaukee to get the right return, depending on sort of what those cities are. Or is Giannis willing to maybe look a little further afield than the places that have been put out there? And does that allow the price to be driven? Because, John, I think let's just presume that he leaves, right? And obviously he could change his mind. He could decide to stay. I know we're going to talk about this. It's hard to see the Bucks constructing any kind of team in the foreseeable future where he can win. Let's just say that he leaves. If he leaves and he wants to go to one of two places, you get one return. If he's willing to include the Thunder, the Rockets, the Magic, the Spurs, teams I'm not thinking of, I mean, Milwaukee, I think, could maybe do the impossible and trade an all-time great superstar, former MVP in their prime, and maybe still be able to navigate this a little bit successfully.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at what the Bucks could get back, there are teams that have a ton of picks and young players. But if it's all about what Giannis wants and where he wants to go, getting to LA, sure, I'm sure he wants to play in LA. LA, you and I both live there. It's a fantastic place to live.
It's great.
It's the basketball center of the universe during the offseason. The entire league basically lives out here. I have a hard time figuring out how he's going to end up on the Clippers or the Lakers. Similarly, good luck getting to the Knicks. Now, the Brooklyn Nets is a different situation because Brooklyn has a ton of cap space. They've got picks. They've got the 6th pick in tonight's draft. They have a 37% chance at the top 4. That could become an attractive pick. I think it's more likely, if we're just talking about it from the Milwaukee end, that the 2 suitors in Texas are the favorites here. Rockets and the Spurs. Both teams have a ton of young talent, and both teams have some really nice picks that they could give up. Houston, especially, Bill, they've got, Jalen Green could be on the table, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith. They've got the 9th pick in tonight's draft before the lottery, the 9th pick in the lottery, rather, thanks to the Suns. Who knows what happens with that if they somehow jump up in the lottery? That could be an attractive one. Now, from Houston's perspective, that doesn't exactly solve their spacing issues, but I guess you just figure it out later, because if you can get Giannis, you get Giannis.
And what's really interesting about this too is that what the 2 teams you just described benefit the Bucks, right? If you're John Horst, who just got extended as the GM, those are the teams you want to deal with. But Giannis told us 3 or 4 weeks ago that, and I thought he was pretty clear in his intentions then, that he wanted to win a 2nd ring, and he didn't want to look back at his career and just have one and just be a Hall of Famer, first balloter who only got 1 ring. And if that's the goal, right? If it's 2 rings. I don't think he's not 25, he's 30. And so his window it's not a forever window. I don't think you want to go to a place like the Miami Heat or what they'd have to give away, they basically have to, it's Bam, it's everything, right? And you'd have to value Tyler Hero, which ironically, he wasn't valued by a previous team, which is why Damian Lillard ended up in Milwaukee. You're not going to win in Brooklyn the first year. You're just not. And you're right. I don't see how the LA teams work. You can win a title in year 1 if things break the right way in Houston. You can win multiple titles in San Antonio if that Wembanyama guy is able to be healthy. So you're right. Not only does it work for Milwaukee, if what Giannis truly covets, and we don't know, is a ring, and he's willing to leave, those are the 2 places that make maybe not the most sense, but 2 of the 3 or 4 that make the most sense for Giannis to be able to go and actually compete for championships.
Yeah, it works both ways. Between the assets that the Bucks could get back, and then also for Giannis potentially winning a ring. The Spurs, the question with the Spurs is, would they be willing to include Stephon Castle in that? They didn't have to give up a ton of asset equity when they landed De'Aaron Fox. And similarly, with the same situation in Houston, it doesn't exactly solve their shooting and spacing problems. But again, if you can get Giannis, you get Giannis. But can you imagine a defense in San Antonio anchored by Wemby and Giannis? Forget about getting to the rim. That's just closed off forever.
Teams can't get to 100 points in this postseason. In the future postseasons, they're not getting to 80 in the playoffs based on look, and to answer your question, I think you do move on from Castle. You see what you can negotiate. You see where the leverage is, right? All that stuff. But De'Aaron Fox, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Victor Wembanyama, you're going to win a lot of basketball games. And you don't get guys like Giannis for free, right? It's not you have to give up a lot to get a player of that caliber.
Yeah, you got to give up something to get something. I'm with you. If I'm the Spurs and it absolutely comes down to Stephon Castle, right, I would put Stephon Castle in there. But I have high hopes for that kid. He's the rookie of the year. I think he's super athletic and talented. And, he needs to learn how to shoot. But the upside there is pretty huge. But yeah, in order to get Giannis, you have to give up something. And man, pairing him with Wemby would be really amazing. I want to throw out a couple of more teams here, Bill, because I think it's instructive and important to remember that the Bucks don't control their draft until 2031. Everything is either a swap or an outgoing pick. So they can't exactly just tank and just hope for the best. They need to get some players back and some picks back, unless they involve the Pelicans, the Blazers, or the Wizards, who are the 3 teams that control all of their picks in order to get some picks back. So maybe there's some sort of 3-team trade there to work where those 3 teams are worked in a 3-team trade with some other team in order for the Bucks to get some of their picks back. Because starting tonight, we're in this draft upcoming because tonight's the lottery. 25 first goes to the Nets. Pelicans have next year's swap. After that, it's the Pelicans or the Hawks that have a pick. After that, it's a Blazers or Wizards swap, and on and on. So maybe they could possibly incorporate one of those 3 teams.
And it bears, I think, mentioning, too, that maybe there was a world where they could thread this needle before Damian Lillard got hurt, where they could have moved on from Lillard, John, and sent it. But with Lillard's injury, where he probably maybe won't play next year, and if he plays, will play very little. He's got that player option that's coming up. It's you don't even have the option to move on from Lillard, and so if you're Giannis, I think it just reinforces what you're talking about. Lillard's injured. They can't swap him out for other players to try to talk him into staying in Milwaukee. They don't control their draft until Giannis is going to be nearing retirement age. Yeah, I think what would be really interesting. There's so many interesting things about this. If you're the Bucks and Giannis affords you at least a few teams that he's willing to go to, there is some kind of a bidding war. It's not the situation you have with Damian Lillard. We tried to force his way to one place, right? And obviously it didn't work. What do you want? Do you want players now to try and win now? Do you want young Stephon Castle as an example who are fairly proven? Do you just want to go a bunch of draft picks and trust John Horst to because he didn't draft Giannis. John Horst's success really came from bringing in Drew Holiday and giving up picks for Drew Holiday and properly putting the right pieces around Giannis one time. What Milwaukee does, I think, is really interesting too, because I think there will be enough of a market. You can kind of choose how your recalibration, your rebuild goes.
Yeah, that whole Dame situation is a mess for them. I mean, that really makes things difficult for John Horst. So he's probably almost certainly, given where and when he got hurt in the postseason, almost certainly going to miss next year. He's about to be 35. He'll be 36 then when he comes back. He's got a player option in that final year at $58 million. It's really bad. And John Horst right now, 80% of their cap is essentially tied to Giannis, Dame, and Kuzma, and you can't move off of Dame. So maybe you can move off of Kuzma and then figure out what you're going to get from Giannis. But the answer on the Giannis thing is a combination of players and picks, and because you got to reboot this thing on the fly. I need you to track down John Horst while you're in Chicago and just get eyeballs on that guy to see how he's doing, because critical offseason incoming from him.
A wellness report incoming tomorrow.
Yeah, we're going to need a wellness check on John Horst. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to discuss some basketball from this weekend. Bill, Oklahoma City won a close game in the postseason. I don't believe it. You don't believe it, but it actually happened. We'll discuss that next. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. 2 games between Oklahoma City and the Nuggets this weekend. The Nugs won an overtime thriller in Game 3. Once again, Bill, questions about, can Oklahoma City win a tight game in the postseason? They didn't play many close games. They played the fewest clutch games of any team in the NBA this season. Well, asked and answered on Sunday, Bill. Game 4, Oklahoma City won by 5. It looked like maybe all of a sudden the Nuggets might pull it out, but SGA was really good in the fourth quarter. 9 points out of his 25 came in the fourth quarter, and they pulled it off. It's just one postseason game, but I think you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, asked. I'm not sure if it's answered for me yet, just because the sample size is so small. And I don't know your impression, John. I thought Denver gave that away as much as the Thunder won that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nikola Jokic has not been good down the stretch. I had dinner with a GM yesterday after that game. I had a pretty late dinner here in Chicago, and we were talking about the game and about Jokic's struggles, and he has not shot well, especially from 3. And Tatum hasn't shot well, and Donovan Mitchell hasn't shot well, and whoever else, Anthony Edwards hadn't shot well until that last game in the second half. And he had a theory that I thought was really interesting. I wanted to posit to you, wanted to put to you. His sort of view of this is a combination of the requirement of the NBA for guys to play means that guys are not actually load managing, and that we make fun of it, but there's a reason that it happened, and the NBA pushed back on it, is that guys needed to rest, and that the increase in parity means that there's just a lot more competition at every level of the playoffs wearing guys down. And you throw in, this was this guy's point too, that Jokic just had to carry this team, that it sort of adds up to this exhaustion for some of these stars. And that, if it's true, would be a huge advantage Thunder, because this guy pointed out to me, it's the deeper teams, and he brought up the Pacers as an example, who are going to have an advantage of these playoffs go on. But the Thunder are really deep too, and they're especially deep defensively, right? They can throw so many guys at you that, to me, and sort of taking all that into context, I'm curious your view, is that is a huge missed opportunity for Denver, because if you're running on empty, if you're running on reserves, if you're worn out, they don't have obviously the depth, the Nuggets that other teams do, and that's more pronounced in this postseason than the past postseasons. Losing that game might end up being the reason they don't advance in this series.
That's really interesting, especially because generally when we think about the postseason, we think about tightening up rotations and just playing all your main guys.
Right.
You know, you're going 6, 7 deep and playing guys 40 minutes a night. But yeah, I thought that the Nuggets looked a little gassed too. And Barkley on the post game show on Inside the NBA was saying that he thought that the NBA did the Nuggets a disservice because they played late on Friday night and then they had the early game on Sunday. Now,
oh, yeah.
The Oklahoma City Thunder also played in both of those games, obviously, but to your point about them being deeper, on Sunday, what happened? The starters outside of SGA looked not great for the Thunder, and you had Jalen Williams coming off a playoff career high 32 points in Game 3. Well, he barely made it to double digits on Sunday in Game 4. He was the only other starter in double-digit scoring in Game 4. And what happened? 3 guys off the bench, Caruso, Kason Wallace, and Aaron Wiggins, ended up scoring in double figures and having 8 of the team's 10 threes. So, yeah, their depth really played a big part in them winning that game. I think all of that is correct. I also think, though, if you're the Thunder, you're happy that you won an ugly game. They didn't play well. They didn't shoot well. They still got the W. They won ugly.
I agree. By the way, one takeaway from the last time you and I hung out and talked hoops on Friday is the 90s call, and they want their basketball back. I mean, it just feels like every other game of every series is 93 to 87, and the Thunder can score. They are a dynamic offense. We've seen that, but they can get down and dirty defensively. Like, if it's going to be a rock fight, they can win. They can win a rock fight. And that's another thing that I was thinking about. And I am more skeptical on the Thunder than I think most people, because I do worry about their lack of postseason experience. And to your point, their lack of just playing clutch games because they dominated so often. But I also recognize the Thunder are one of those teams that can win in a lot of different ways. They are versatile enough and they are flexible enough. And I think they have a good enough coach too, that they're going to be able to beat you playing their style of basketball. But I think they can also get into situations that aren't comfortable for them and still find ways to grind out wins.
I'm glad that you brought up Dagnall, because he didn't exactly cover himself in glory in Game 1. There were some questions about him after that game. Then in Game 3, they had an awful shooting night. And all of a sudden, people were asking a lot of questions about Oklahoma City and whether or not they can win these scrappy postseason games where it does look like 90s basketball. Game 4, they shot even worse in Game 4 than they did in Game 3, Bill, but they figured out a way to win. And Dagnall evidently had to remind his team after Game 3, hey, you're the 1 seed for 2 straight years. You had an historically great year this season where you won 68 games and had the best point differential in NBA history. So here's what Mark Dagnall had to say after winning Game 4 about his team just pulling out a gritty win in the postseason.
Every game's different, so you have to play the game as it comes and learn from every experience. The one thing I will say is, competition's about throwing punches and competition's about taking punches. And every time you take punches and you get back up, you get stronger, and that's what we're preaching to our team, we lost a tough one the other night in overtime, stood back up today, especially at the start of the game. I really love the approach to start the game. And then we took punches in the game today and had to stand back up. But every time you do that, you bind together more and you get stronger. And that's a good thing for us. You have to embrace every experience that happens in the playoffs, whether it's positive or a challenge.
Bill, I thought they were white knuckling it a little bit earlier in the series, especially in Game 1 and after Game 3 in overtime. That to me sounds like they were thinking about it too.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this. If they don't make the finals for the Thunder, I think it is unequivocally a failed season based on, and the West is really good, and we've had that talk a lot, but there's only one elite team from the regular season in the Western Conference, and that team is the Thunder. Now, I think there's a lot of teams that are great outside of that. Second round exit, you can't do that. And by the way, I think you and I probably both, if we had to pick right now, would say, okay, the Thunder are probably going to win the series. But if you go back to Oklahoma City and you tell me that Nikola Jokic has a 42-21-12 masterclass and the Nuggets take a lead, that wouldn't surprise me either. And so they are playing with fire. They are white knuckling it. I mean, you got to seize these moments while you have them. And both those teams were awful in terms of how they shot the basketball. And again, this is a theme that has resonated through a lot of series. At a certain point, I have faith that we're going to regress to the mean for a lot of these teams. I'm not as sure on the Thunder because, again, they are young and they are unproven in these moments. I've seen Boston do it. I know Jokic can do it. I'm pretty sure Anthony Edwards can do it. He made a conference finals last year. There's a lot of question marks for me on not who's going to play better, but maybe who's not going to play worse than their opponent in this series.
Yeah, the Thunder came in as heavy favorites, minus 900. Nugs were plus 610. That's dropped. They're tied 2-2. It's now minus 620 for Oklahoma City and plus 460. So still the favorites there, Bill, but a non-zero chance that the Nuggets can pull this off. And by the way, you're absolutely right. If Oklahoma City doesn't advance to the finals, it is a disaster for them. And it's an historic one because they would be the first number one seed in consecutive seasons not to make it to the conference finals in consecutive seasons. It's never happened in NBA history. So yeah, they absolutely have to get out of the series. You brought up Nikola Jokic too, and that you wouldn't put it past him to go to Oklahoma City and put up massive numbers. I wouldn't either, but I am slightly worried about his shooting right now. Let's take a break. And then on the other side, we got to discuss Joker not shooting the ball well at all in games 3 and 4 and what that means for the Nuggets. We'll do that on the other side, and then we'll get to some of the other series from this weekend. That's coming up. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Just talking a little bit about the Oklahoma City Nuggets series. And look, the Nuggets won 1 of 2 at home. The series is tied, but Joker has not shot the ball well for a while now, not since Oklahoma City, Bill. He missed at one point between games 3 and 4, 14 straight three-pointers. What did he shoot? 8 of 25 in game 3 and 7 of 22 from the field in game 4, including, Bill, 2 missed free throws in the end of the fourth quarter that could have been critical. He's still Nikola Jokic. He's still the best player in the world. He still put up double-doubles in both of those games. It's hard to say you need more from Joker when he puts up double-doubles, but you need more efficiency at the very least.
What is he shooting from 3? I think it's 18%. It's below 20, I think, in this series. I mean, it's
he's 2 for his last 18 from 3.
I'm going to go back to what we talked about earlier because I was thinking about this conversation last night with this NBA exec, and I think it's right. I think look, the pressure's not too much, and it's not the Thunder are doing something magical to him. I think he's exhausted, John. And by the way, he's in pretty good shape, right? I mean, he's in good Joker shape. I don't think it's not a Luka Doncic conversation. I just think he's tired. He has had to carry. I think I've taken for granted, but I think maybe the NBA writ large has taken for granted over the years. LeBron James would carry teams starting in January or February and then just carry them all the way to an NBA championship. That's not normal. Like, guys do get worn out when they're asked to do everything. And one thing about this Nuggets team is they battled the Western Conference and everybody were pushed together. And Jokic really made this push to be MVP, which he probably won't be, but he got my vote. He had to log minutes. He had to log really difficult physical minutes. And so I think in some ways just the load of this lackluster Nuggets team that he's had to carry. So lackluster, they fired the head coach and the general manager as the season wound to an end. I think it's catching up to him. And to me, he looks exhausted.
He did look exhausted, especially in game 3 when he was throwing the ball all over the gym, and they still went to him for the final shot in regulation. I don't know why, because Aaron Gordon was shooting the ball well, and they just decided. I mean, I do know why. He's Nikola Jokic, so you give him the ball and hope that
Aaron Ray Allen Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, he's been shooting the ball so well, but it's a good thing for you and I were talking in the break about. It's a good thing that Joker won game 3 because he went to the arena before game 3 dressed as the Joker. And so if you lose that game, that's a meme for like the rest of your career. I like it. I thought he looked good. It's a good fit, but you got to win that game, Bill. And they did in overtime.
How long does it take, especially at his size, to order that? I mean, you have to, you don't walk into the local Men's Warehouse and just pick that up. You know, is that like
that's not off the rack?
You're planning that. No, that's tailored. That's tailor-made. I mean, and he's got the money to turn around fast, but he was planning that for a while.
Yeah, it's a good plan. We'll see what happens with Game 5 when they return to Oklahoma City. Let's talk about the Pacers and the Cavs, Bill. Game 4 yesterday, Sunday, the Pacers absolutely dominated the Cavs. They only won the game by 20. They could have won it by 50. They were up 44 at one point, Bill. They were up 41 at the half. They are now, the Pacers, up 3-1 in the series. As I mentioned previously, teams that start 2-0 on the road in the playoffs are 38-5. The odds are now Pacers minus 270 to win this series, Bill. if you're the Cavs, you are absolutely reeling after that game. They did not play well at all. Right from the beginning, the Pacers jumped all over them. And to make matters worse, Donovan Mitchell, who has been excellent in this series, didn't play in the second half, re-aggravated an ankle injury. According to reports, he had an MRI. He is questionable for Game 5 with their season on the line.
By the way, fun fact, teams that go up, I looked this up, teams that go up 3-1 in the series in the history of the NBA win 96% of the time. And if your coach is not Doc Rivers, they win 97% of the time. So just a fun little fact for you. I mean, look, the Cavs, I think, have three problems. And I think all three of them are surmountable, but maybe not in combination. One, they also suffer from this lack of like real playoff experience like the Thunder to match the very legitimate expectations of conference finals or bust is probably the minimum requirement for a successful season. Two, they've had injuries, and that's just part of the deal. They had a lot of injuries early on, and obviously the Donovan Mitchell injury in the second half is critical. And three, the Pacers are an elite basketball team, even if outside of this show, people have not been talking about that enough. And when I looked it up, because you kindly referenced this last week, it was in February when I wrote that the Pacers needed to be taken a little more seriously and have a little more respect. And I mean, this is pretty early, right? I mean, this is a
you're
great
an early
Pacers
adopter.
team. Early in. So if you are having troubles with staying healthy to critical guys, four now of your guys include, right? Because obviously you've had Mobley injured earlier in the series, you had Hunter in the series, Garland, and now we'll see what happens with Donovan Mitchell. And you're not shooting particularly well. And I think maybe the moment's a little big and you're still trying to figure out how playoff basketball and winning with expectations works. Oh, and guess what? You're not in the first round and the Pacers are really, really good. It adds up to what is not just the debacle of this series, but the humiliation of that game.
Yeah, if you didn't watch a lot of yesterday's game, you probably would think that somebody had a massive game yesterday. That wasn't the case. You had 10 Pacers in double figures. It was a total team effort across the board, which is often a cliche, but it wasn't in this situation. I mean, you had Siakam go for 21 and Miles Turner go for 20. Other than that, it was just right from the beginning, they jumped all over the Cavs, and the Cavs never recovered. Kenny Atkinson, the Cavs head coach, who's the coach of the year, Bill, was asked about it afterwards. He was completely despondent. He just basically said, yeah, they crushed us from the beginning. Here's what Kenny said after the game.
They dominated with their force. They raised their game to another level, and we didn't match it. We talked about it. We knew it was coming. I don't know. You try to prepare for these things. You try to prepare your guys mentally, but for whatever reason, they like I said, they were at another level. Their force was greater in every sense. There wasn't like, well, this aspect or rebound. I thought it was rebounding. Physicality. We were running our offense at half court. They had us pushed out. Couldn't get to our spots. It was really kind of physical domination.
Bill, that is tough to hear when you are the one seed, to have the head coach say that they just dominated us. And now all of a sudden there's remember the old Hawks teams of Horford and Teague and Korver? Like that was a regular season team that could never get over the top in the playoffs. You're starting to hear some of those comparisons.
Can I throw in another? That's a great comparison. Another one, the Utah Jazz, who had a certain Donovan Mitchell as a part of that team. And by the way, Rudy Gobert has carried himself pretty effectively as a part of a playoff team that's had success last year and is on the verge of having some serious success again this year. You brought up, it's a perfect word, despondent. He looked despondent. You're right. And I was thinking about this. You're right. Atkinson, coach of the year, well deserved. Rick Carlisle, like his team. That's a great coach that we never really talk about. Guy won an NBA championship, is very well respected in NBA coaching circles. And to your point about having 9-10 guys, literally, who contribute, he's been masterful at sort of knowing how to push those buttons and pull those strings and what guy on what given day. Mm-hmm. At every level, including the coaching level in this series, it has been a masterclass in one direction from the Pacers toward, against, and at the expense of the Cavs.
Yeah, it really wasn't just in game 4. They have been the better team in this series from the very beginning, winning 2 games in Cleveland, then coming back and winning 1 in Indianapolis. They are in the driver's seat and 1 game away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals for the second straight season. Only Bill Ryder was an early adopter on this team. So yes, everybody else needs to put some respect on the Pacers name. Quick timeout. And then on the other side, we have two critical game fours in the NBA tonight. We'll discuss the Knicks and the Celtics. Celtics climbing back into this series. We'll discuss that on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network. All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. We are also a podcast. You can get us wherever you find your favorite shows. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. Game 4, Knicks and Celtics tonight, Bill. The Celtics won Game 3. They were up by 22 points, and this time, unlike in Game 1 and Game 2, they did not blow that lead. They were up. They won by 22. They were up by as much as 31. They really dominated the Knicks at MSG. Kind of a bummer if you're a Knicks fan. Everybody was really excited about the pomp and the pageantry for Game 3 in the Garden, and the Celtics just steamrolled them, Bill. And they are now 6.5-point favorites in Game 4 tonight, and they are also the series favorites to get out of the series. So all of a sudden, the Celtics back from the dead after falling down 2-0, Bill.
Far be it for me to question Las Vegas and their math and their wisdom, but how does anyone know anything about this series? I find it utterly baffling. I mean, it's worth pointing out that the Celtics missed, I think it was 75 three-point shots in their first two games, the most prolific three-point shooting team in history, and a pretty good one, and then just rolled into the Garden with everyone in there at a minimum $800, nosebleed seats, and proceeded to make half of their threes. And but still, Jason Tatum still doesn't look particularly effective. And on the other side of the equation, OG Anunoby, who I think very quietly, he's not the most important player on the Knicks, but he's a weather vane in some ways. Like when he is really good, they're really good. And the rare times that he's poor, they're poor. He did not have a great game. They have the Knicks, the closer in the series. I don't think it's even a question that if you have to trust somebody down the stretch, the guy's literally the clutch player of the year. It's Jalen Brunson, and just go on and on and on. The Knicks are up 2-1 and they're still at home. I have no idea what to make of this series, what anyone's going to shoot, how anyone's going to play. It's fun, but it's a baffling series for me.
It is fun and it is baffling. And I think the Celtics just keep, marching along, just doing what they do, because in game, 2, they shot 43 pointers and they only made 15, I believe. And then in game 3, they shot 43 pointers and they made half of them. So all of a sudden, this is like the fear with the Celtics where you think, okay, they've got so many different shooters, and Peyton Pritchard shot well. I'm glad that you brought up Jason Tatum not quite looking right. He had 22 points, but he only shot 8 of 20 in game 3. He was 5 of 9 from deep, though, so that's not bad. Bill, he has the second most playoff points at age 27 after LeBron James. He passed Kobe Bryant in that game. I think Jason Tatum is he's just been consistently available in the postseason. He hasn't shot the ball well, but Bill, you and I have consistently criticized him about certain moments in the postseason where he doesn't shoot the ball well, and sometimes he'll settle for that step back jumper instead of getting to the rim. Jason Tatum, though, had some interesting comments about this. He's aware of the criticism that people like us give him, and I thought that how he responded to it after Game 3 was pretty interesting. Here's what he said.
You understand what comes with being that guy, right? I live a great life. I ain't gonna lie. It's I make a lot of money. I take care of my family. I've been able to experience a lot of things. But you also have to accept what comes with that, right? I get a lot of praise. I get a lot of credit. I get a lot of accolades. But, I'm not perfect. And there's times where, I've needed to play better. I needed to do more. And, that's what comes with being, that guy.
We had Russ give a pretty introspective comment about the Russ experience the other day, and I thought that this was Jason Tatum is not Russ. He's not as entertaining as Russ in terms of what he says to us and the media and when he gets on a microphone, but just him saying, yeah, there have been moments when I need to play better, and I hear people say it, and that's fine.
We don't discuss this a lot because we talk about his game, right? He's a really likable guy. I mean, that is you said it. It's a very introspective, self-aware, candid person. And let's be frank, John, this isn't just in sports, it's in everything. Massive wealth, massive success, massive fame, surrounded by sycophants. That is something that sort of bends the physics of being a human being in a weird way, as I understand, as I observe it from a distance. And not everybody responds well to it. credit to Jason Tatum for still being a self-aware, introspective guy in a profession, or one of many professions, where based on all the things he just said about his life, that doesn't always happen. Now, the response that matters to Celtics fans and to the outcome of these series is how he plays on the floor, right? But I'm a believer, and I could be wrong, that the ability to be honest with yourself in these sort of situations, to be able to say, I didn't play well enough, I have to be better, I think that makes it more likely, not less, that you're going to figure it out. And what's crazy about the Celtics is they're the favorites in this series. They're the favorites to be NBA champions if they get through this series. They were NBA champions last year. And Tatum has not really shot efficiently. We can still debate whether he's played well or not well, but he hasn't shot efficiently at all in these playoff runs. The moment that he does, they level up. They go to another place.
That's a really good point, because we could look at it glass half empty and go, man, he's been bad shooting the ball. Jaylen Brown has been bad shooting the ball. What are these guys doing? And then you remember, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, eventually those shots are going to fall. They're not all going to shoot poorly over the entire course of a 7-game series. That redundancy is built in to the Celtics, where, okay, you can't expect that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Al Horford and Derek White are all going to be cold over this course, and Drew Holiday over the course of the entire series, because then all of a sudden here comes Peyton Pritchard. By the way, we haven't even talked about Kristaps Porzingis, who doesn't look like himself at all, is playing limited minutes and coming off the bench. I mean, like, if any of these guys all of a sudden find their stroke, or Kristaps Porzingis gets healthy, yeah, then all of a sudden the Celtics super level up. But I thought that Tatum saying, I need to play better, and the part that we even cut off the back end of it, where he said, I'm not one of these guys who's just going to get angry at the world. I try to be the same guy that I am when things are going well as when they're not going well. And that's just who I am. I just thought, like, that was like a really adult answer. What you said, he's likable. So we'll see whether or not that translates basketball wise.
I also think that, look, I like Joe Mazzulla. You like Joe Mazzulla. I like him talking about leaning into the darkness, tapping into your own darkness. I like that he watches The Town 15 times a day. I like that whatever. He's a weird guy in a beautiful way. But Jason Tatum has not shot well in the playoffs the last postseason and this postseason. Maybe despite the fact that you want your guys to shoot a lot of threes, maybe make a slight adjustment for Tatum and just have him for the first quarter of these games just play downhill, get to the rim, get some easy buckets, and just get in a rhythm. I mean, it would be nice to put Tatum in a little more of a situation where you just build some offense around, and you can, because of how much space there is, because how many threes they shoot. Just make it about getting Jason Tatum some easy buckets to just get him in rhythm maybe early on. Help him a little bit.
Who do you like in tonight's game? Because if the Celtics win it and tie the series at 2-2, then you have both teams haven't won a game on their own floor. If the Knicks win and go up 3-1, then they've got a commanding lead in the series, but it's hard for me to imagine that happening.
So I like the Knicks if they shoot the sort of like what they should in the 35, 36, 37% range from the 3-point line, right? If they're in the same area, I like New York. I think they're grittier. I think they're playing better defense. I trust Jalen Brunson. But I don't know, because I don't know which of these teams is going to shoot 50% from 3 and which is going to shoot 17% from 3.
Yeah, the Knicks were bad in game 3. They shot, 25% from 3, and then they were 68% from the line. Their free throw issues are a problem. Right. But yes, if the Knicks, I think this is a more important game for the Knicks than I think they've played in quite some time, because if they let the Celtics tie this series at 2-2, and now you're going back to the Garden, all the momentum on Boston's side, bad news for the Knicks. We'll see if they respond tonight. All right, another timeout, and then on the other side, the other game for tonight. Things not looking great for the Warriors as they try to keep their head above water, waiting for Steph Curry to come back. Wolves up 2-1. We'll discuss that series coming up. This is Beyond the Arc on CBS Sports Network.
It's always get a win. If we don't win, we damn sure gonna have to worry about getting Steph back this year. So we gotta, put our big boy pants on and go out there and compete at a high level and get this one on Monday, and then we can worry about the next one after that. But get some rest, recover, dominoes, coffee, kids.
Big boy pants time for the Warriors, Bill. They lost game 3. They needed more from Jimmy. They got more from Jimmy. They still couldn't pull it off. Couldn't crack 100 points. And now the Wolves are up 2-1 in this series, and the Wolves are favored in tonight's game, and the Wolves are favored to win this series. It's looking dire for the Warriors right now, Bill.
It is dire, and it's exactly what you and I discussed after the Warriors won game one but lost Steph Curry to that injury. Golden State had one goal in the next 3 games. Win one of those games. Send it back to Minnesota at 2-2 and extend the window, right? Try to push back the window. And it sounded like that would have been effective where Steph can come back and maybe have an impact if you stay alive in the series. And they've just, especially that last game, they just can't generate offense without Steph Curry.
Well, they got 33 from Jimmy, and they got 30 from your guy Jonathan Kuminga, who was like risen from the dead after all these DNP CDs. He's playing his head off. But those are the only two guys offensively who have really stepped forward. Draymond has been, outside of 2 games, Game 7 in the first series against the Rockets and Game 1 of this series, Draymond has been terrible offensively.
He's been absolutely awful. I'm glad you brought up Kuminga because. And this isn't directed at you. I mean, it's directed at Steve Kerr. If this guy can play like this in a playoff game against a Timberwolves team that has, by the way, John, a really good defense, that's a top 10 defense. Where have his minutes been this year? I mean, I don't want to make this every Steve Kerr bashing, but come on. I mean, what are we doing here?
If you're Steve Kerr, I thought rightly, he said that he didn't like the spacing with Draymond, Kuminga, and Jimmy Butler on the floor. And when you got Jimmy Butler, it kind of eliminated Kuminga's touches, his shots. However, in this scenario, when the guy goes for 30 in a playoff game that you absolutely need all the offense that you can find, and he shoots 11 of 18 from the floor and 3 of 4 from deep, I mean, at the very least, at the very least, this is a nice audition tape if they decide to move on from him to dangle in front of somebody else for the offseason, because now you have an asset that you could potentially move on from. From the Wolves side, Bill, Ant had 36 in Game 3. He looked fantastic. Julius Randle had 24, 10, and 12. He joins Kevin Garnett as the only Wolves to have a triple-double in the playoffs. Bill, combined in Game 2 and Game 3, he has 23 assists over that span. It's the most assists in a 2-game span in Wolves playoff history. Who is this Julius Randle?
By the way, you very kindly gave me credit for being on the Pacers early. Let me also self-own and acknowledge that I very aggressively espouse that they should just DNP. They should jump the Kuminga, basically. They should DNP Randle for the entirety of the season. So what the hell do I know? Randle's been amazing. He's been so good. Amazing. He's been so good. Yeah. But by the way, with Randle playing like this, and that's who he's been, there's many problems for the Warriors. Anthony Edwards, you said it, got it going, shot well, looked like Ant. That's a big problem too, because if Ant shows up and starts playing this guy took more threes by volume than anybody in the NBA this year. He hit, I think, 39.5, 40% of them. If that guy gets back, the Warriors have no chance without Steph. They probably don't anyway.
The Warriors absolutely need to win tonight's game. If you fall down 3-1, whether you get Steph back or not, it's almost certainly a wrap. If you win tonight's game, you buy yourself some time. If you lose Game 5, fine. At least hopefully you have Steph coming back for Game 6 and you've got a puncher's chance in this. But right now, Bill, as it stands with the Wolves up in this series, they have the second best odds to get out of the Western Conference behind Oklahoma City. I think I like the Wolves better right now. They're playing fantastic basketball. And if they go up 3-1, they're probably going to get a little time off before the conference finals.
I can't remember if it was on here or on CBS Sports HQ or both, but I thought that when we didn't know Steph was going to be hurt, I thought the winner of this series would make the finals. And I still think that's true. I'm still buying into the Thunder sort of having to I'm just not there yet as certainty. And I'm with you. The Minnesota's, and with Randle playing at this level, they can go all the way, John. They're good enough.
We're at a point in the season where everything is so upside down that you just said with Julius Randle playing the way that he's playing, that the Wolves could go to the finals. It's absolutely bananas. All right, Bill's at the Combine. He's going to be in the room tonight for the lottery. We're going to get his report tomorrow live on CBS Sports Network. Come back and join us. We'll be here at 1 p.m. Eastern tomorrow for that. And then also tonight on YouTube after the lottery, I will be live on YouTube with Sam Quinn to discuss what shakes out in the lottery. Almost invariably that the Sixers pick protected 1-6 will end up in Oklahoma City. But come and join us live on YouTube at Beyond the Arc CBS. But for now, for our NBA insider Bill Ryder, I'm John Gonzalez. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you tonight and tomorrow.